At my grandfather's funeral, everyone mocked me when I opened the crumpled envelope he left me. They got millions, I got a single plane ticket. But 24 hours later, in a strange Florida enclave, a man whispered, "Your grandfather hid the truth for a reason." What happened next shattered everything. Before I tell you the full story, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from so this story reaches more people who'll appreciate it. The funeral was exactly the kind of spectacle grandfather Silas Holt would have orchestrated, grand, extravagant, and overflowing with people who pretended they loved him. Redford Heights, Colorado, was already known for its wealthy hillside homes, but the Holt estate made everything else look like backyard sheds. Black SUVs lined the driveway all the way to the private gate, and polished security officers guided guests inside like they were entering royalty's palace. My cousin Lawson stood at the entrance greeting every high-profile guest as though he'd already inherited the crown. His perfectly sculpted blonde hair didn't move an inch despite the mountain wind. He shook hands with CEOs and senators like he'd been training for this moment since birth. "Senator Avery, thank you for coming," he said with a smile he had probably practiced in the mirror for months. His sister Betrayal stood nearby in a designer morning dress, fake crying into her phone for her followers. "It's just so hard," she whispered dramatically while live-streaming the event. Once the camera stopped, she checked the numbers, smirked, and retouched her lip gloss. "They fit this world perfectly. Me? Not so much." I, Rowan Hayes, stood near the catering table in my 3-year-old department store suit, wishing I were anywhere else. For 28 years, I'd been the distant grandson, the one who got polite Christmas checks instead of calls, the one who taught high school chemistry instead of building the Holt empire, the one who didn't belong. My mother, Delia, approached me with a worried smile. "You okay?" she asked quietly, adjusting my crooked tie. "Just ready for this to be over," I said. My father, Marcus, joined us carrying 2 cups of coffee. He hated champagne and these people even more. His rough carpenter hands looked out of place among all the manicured fingers gripping crystal flutes. "They're gathering for the will reading," he said. "We can leave right after." I nodded, having no idea how wrong he was. This wouldn't be an ending, it would be the beginning. The study looked identical to how it had been my entire childhood, a massive stone fireplace, deep leather chairs, and walls lined with shelves of expensive books Silas probably never read. His attorney, Mr. Kendall, sat behind the carved walnut desk, his white hair neatly combed and his expression unreadable. He had several thick envelopes laid out before him, each labeled with a name in Silas's bold handwriting. Lawson took the closest seat, already on speakerphone with his financial advisor. "Just get ready," he murmured. "This is going to be huge." Brielle perched on a velvet chair, her assistant filming from the corner. My mom and dad stood near the back with me, as far from the spotlight as possible. Mr. Kendall cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" He opened the first envelope, Lawson's. "To my grandson Lawson Grant Holt, whose drive will carry the Holt legacy into the next generation, I leave all Holt Commercial District holdings, including Ridgecrest Plaza and the West Channing corporate block, with an estimated value of $22 million. Lawson exhaled like a man who'd been holding his breath. "Knew it," he whispered. Next came Brielle's. "To my granddaughter Brielle Rose Holt, I leave my coastal estates in Palisade Coast, California, as well as my marina properties and yacht collection." She squealed. Loud. "He left me the marina? Oh my God. This is iconic." Her assistant filmed every second. Then came Mom's envelope. "To my daughter Delia Hayes, I leave $100,000 and my collection of signed historical literature." It was both something and nothing at the same time, a reminder of how deeply Silas disapproved of her marriage and her life. Mom simply nodded. "Thank you," she said softly. Then Mr. Kendall picked up a small, wrinkled envelope, one that looked like it had almost been thrown away. And finally, "To my grandson? Rowan." Even Brielle stopped scrolling. I took the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside, there was no check, no deed, no folder of assets. Just one plane ticket. From Houston Liberty International to Starlight Bay Regional in Florida. Departure, tomorrow at 7:45 a.m. And a handwritten note that said only, "Don't miss the flight." 5 words. That was my inheritance. For 2 full seconds, the room stayed silent. Then Lawson burst into laughter, violent, uncontrollable, the kind where he slapped his knee. "You're kidding," he shouted. "A plane ticket? That's it? Oh God, I can't breathe." Brielle covered her mouth, giggling. "Rowan got public transportation. This is wild." My face burned so hot I thought I might pass out. I could feel Dad tense beside me, jaw clenched. "That's enough," he snapped. "You've made your point." But Lawson kept laughing. "A ticket to Florida? What's he supposed to inherit there, a beach chair?" This is priceless. The laughing continued as we left the estate, echoing behind me like a cruel soundtrack. For hours, I stared at that ticket in my childhood bedroom trying to make sense of it. Why me? Why Florida? Why tomorrow? Dad paced the room, furious. You don't have to go. Silas pushed people around his whole life. Don't let him do it from the grave. But Mom spoke quietly. Rowan, he called me before he died. Dad and I froze. He said you had something the others didn't. That you'd understand one day. She touched the ticket gently. Maybe this is that day. I barely slept, but by dawn the decision felt clear, like it had been sitting inside me all along. I was going. My parents drove me to Houston Liberty International in Dad's dented pickup truck. When I hugged them goodbye, it felt like stepping into something irreversible. When I landed in Starlight Bay, I expected confusion. What I didn't expect was a man in a black suit holding a sign with my name. Rowan Holt. Not Hayes. Holt. He leaned in and whispered, your grandfather hid the truth for a reason. Come with me. And everything inside me shifted. The man in the suit studied my face with unsettling precision, as though he already knew everything about me before I spoke a word. His voice held a faint European inflection, not French, not Italian, but something blended and smooth. Mr. Holt, he repeated calmly, your grandfather arranged for me to collect you the moment you arrived. My mind spun. My name is Hayes. Rowan Hayes. Here, he said, tapping the sign gently, you are Holt. Before I could question him, he gestured toward a sleek black Lincoln parked along the curb. The Florida humidity clung to my skin immediately, warm and heavy, yet the car felt like a portal, its tinted windows impossibly dark, its engine humming like a whisper of secrets. Who are you? I asked, still gripping my carry-on. My name is Rafael Vega, he replied, opening the door with practiced elegance. I served your grandfather for 17 years. But not the version of him you knew in Colorado. I don't understand, I said. You will, he assured. Please. Everything inside me screamed not to trust strangers in expensive suits waiting at airports with my name on a sign, but my feet moved anyway. Something about his certainty made it impossible to walk away. The moment I stepped into the car, cool air washed over me, smelling faintly of leather and eucalyptus. Raphael slid into the passenger seat while a silent driver pulled away from the airport. We are going to Crescent Harbor, Raphael said. What's there? Your grandfather's second life. We drove along the Florida coast, palm trees whipping past, ocean peeking between rows of pastel houses. Starlight Bay felt quiet, too quiet, like a place where secrets came to retire. After 20 minutes, the neighborhoods shifted, houses larger, gates taller, streets emptier. The kind of area where people owned private security instead of porch lights. Finally, we stopped at a sprawling estate hidden behind a wall of towering bamboo. The wrought iron gate slid open the moment Raphael stepped out. No keypad. No camera. As though it somehow recognized him. The driveway curved beneath oak branches dripping with moss, leading to a Mediterranean-style villa with terracotta tiles and sweeping balconies that overlooked the ocean. I froze. This belonged to my grandfather? In his life as Silas Holt? Raphael shook his head. No. As Soren Lascaris. Soren, who? Your grandfather's identity here, he explained. One he maintained for over 4 decades. My breath stalled. Silas Holt, the cold, distant, ruthless man who built half of Redford Heights, had lived an entirely different life in Florida? Raphael pushed open the heavy front door, and the scent of cedar and sea salt filled the air. Sunlight spilled across polished floors. And there, lining the walls of the foyer, were photographs. But not one of me, Lawson, Brielle, or any family member I recognized. These photos showed Silas, or rather Soren, surrounded by people I'd never seen. Children at charity events. Volunteers building houses. Doctors posing beside new medical equipment. Village elders cutting ribbons beside wells. His smile in these pictures was nothing like the stiff smirk I'd grown up seeing. He looked human. Happy. Raphael watched my reaction carefully. Your grandfather didn't want the Holts to know about this life. And why do I get to see it? That is something only he could answer, Raphael said. But I can show you what he left behind. He led me through a sprawling hallway until we entered what looked like a study. A large circular window framed the ocean like a painting. On the desk sat stacks of leather-bound journals. These contain 40 years of his work, Raphael said softly. Schools, clinics, clean water systems, projects he funded anonymously across dozens of countries. I swallowed hard, overwhelmed. This is impossible, I whispered. He built luxury towers, not humanitarian projects. Raphael opened one of the journals, revealing sketches of village infrastructure, hand-drawn maps, and names of people Silas had worked with under his alias. Your grandfather lived with regret, he said. He told me once that money had made him powerful in Colorado, but powerless to stop what it turned him into. I stared at his handwriting. Every loop and stroke unmistakably Silas. But why hide this from everyone? I asked. Because, Raphael replied, the Holt heirs would have weaponized it. Turned his charity into a brand. Profited from it. Exploited it. He wasn't wrong. Lawson would have slapped the Holt logo on every school. Betrayal would have called it content. And why involve me? I asked quietly. Raphael walked to a tall cabinet, unlocked it with a brass key, and removed a thick folder. He set it in my hands. For this reason, he said. I opened it, and froze. Inside were photographs of me. Me at 15, participating in a community cleanup with my classmates. Me at 21, tutoring struggling students at my university. Me at 26, helping the robotics club build a project after school. Dozens of photos. Some grainy. Some taken from afar. All capturing moments I hadn't even remembered. He had you watched? I asked, horrified. He had you observed, Raphael corrected gently. Not in a malicious way. He wanted to understand you. Why? Because, Raphael said with a faint smile, he believed you were the only Holt who still had a conscience. My throat tightened. The cousins who mocked me at the will reading flashed through my mind, the way they celebrated inheritance like it proved their superiority. I'd always thought Silas ignored me. But he'd been paying attention all along. Raphael placed a small wooden box on the desk. This, he said, was the final item he prepared for you. I lifted the lid. Inside was a key, ornate, heavy, and old. And beneath it, a note in Silas's handwriting. Rowan. You will decide what becomes of everything I built. Not the ones who chased my fortune. The one who never cared for it. I stared at the key. What does it open? I asked. Raphael took a slow breath. The vault underneath this estate. It contains documents, financial accounts, records of a foundation worth far more than the Holt fortune. A chill ran across my spine. How much more? Raphael hesitated, then spoke. Approximately $600 million. I nearly dropped the key. No, he would have told us, he would have. No, Raphael said firmly. He would have told you. Not them. Because he believed you would use it for people, not yourself. My heartbeat thundered. My grandfather, cold, controlling, emotionally distant, had been a secret philanthropist? And I, the family disappointment, was entrusted with everything he'd hidden? It didn't make sense. Until Raphael leaned closer and said 6 words that pierced straight through me. He chose you for a reason. I swallowed. What reason? Raphael gestured toward the door. You won't understand until you see the vault. And suddenly I knew, my life was about to split into before and after. Raphael led me down a hallway lined with tall windows overlooking the ocean. Each step felt heavier than the last, like my grandfather's secrets were pressing down on my chest. The villa was silent except for the distant crash of waves, and with every turn, it felt less like a home and more like a labyrinth built to contain truths no one was ever meant to find. At the end of the hallway was a steel door, completely out of place among the warm terracotta floors and carved wooden accents. It looked like it belonged in a bank, not a coastal estate in Crescent Harbor. Raphael typed a code into a panel, long, complex, memorized. The lock released with a low mechanical groan. After you, he said. I expected a staircase, maybe a dim basement. Instead, the moment I stepped inside, motion sensors activated and soft white lights flickered on, illuminating a sleek, temperature-controlled room. The air smelled faintly of metal and old paper. A biometric scanner glowed softly in the corner. And in the center stood a vault door the size of a bus wheel. My fingers tightened around the ornate key in my pocket. This is impossible, I whispered. My grandfather built this? Not as Silas, Raphael said. As Soren Lascaris. The name still felt foreign, like trying to speak in a language I didn't know. He gestured to the scanner. Place your palm here. Mine? I asked. How would this thing recognize me? Your grandfather planned ahead. As carefully as I could, I moved to the wall panel Raphael had shown me earlier, a matte black touchscreen disguised as part of the shelving. He'd tapped it once to dim the lights during the tour. Now I tapped it twice. It flickered to life, revealing a grid of security camera feeds. Hallways. Courtyard. Kitchen. Entry gate. Garage. My stomach tightened. Lawson and Sierra were inside the villa, moving through the halls with the confidence of people who believed the world was theirs by default. Lawson carried a flashlight, sweeping it across furniture as though expecting treasure to pop out of thin air. Sierra held her phone up, recording. Of course she was recording. Sheesh, look at this place, she said on the audio. If Grandpa had a secret hideout and didn't put us in the will for it, that's criminal, Lawson muttered. That's not what I was going to say. You implied it. Sierra flipped her hair. I said unfair. Totally different. Lawson stopped abruptly in the video, turning toward a painting. Why would Grandpa send Rowan here, he muttered. What did he know that we don't? Sierra zoomed in on the painting with her camera. Honestly, Lawson, maybe he just wanted to get rid of Rowan before the lawyers finished things. You know how Grandpa was. Lawson's jaw tightened. No. Grandpa had a reason. He stepped closer to the painting and ran his fingers along the frame. Help me take this down. What? Why? People hide things behind paintings, Sierra. Haven't you watched any movie ever? She sighed but helped him lift it off the wall. Behind it, bare plaster. Lawson cursed. Of course he wouldn't make it that easy. Sierra kept recording. You're embarrassing yourself. We should have brought a lawyer. Stop recording. No. Lawson snatched the phone out of her hands, and the video feed on my end jerked violently as the device hit the floor. Sierra gasped off camera. Seriously? That phone is limited edition. My pulse hammered. This wasn't just casual curiosity, they were hunting. Searching. Tearing through the villa like wolves sniffing blood. And if they found the vault? I swallowed, fear rising. Raphael had sealed the door, but nothing was impenetrable forever. Suddenly a new voice crackled through the speakers, deeper, calmer, with the clipped tone of someone trained to command. Raphael. Lawson. Sierra. You are trespassing on private property. Leave now. Lawson spun, flashlight pointed upward. Who the hell is that? Security Director, Raphael replied smoothly. Your grandfather hired me 15 years ago. This villa is protected. You have no legal right to be here. Sierra crossed her arms. We're family. Not to this property, Raphael said. The last legal owner was Mr. Soren Lascaris. Who? Lawson snapped. Your grandfather. They both froze. What do you mean Soren? Sierra asked slowly. It is the name he used here, Raphael said. And legally, this villa and foundation were never part of the Peton estate. They transfer only to the designated heir. Lawson stepped closer to the hallway camera, face twisted. What designated heir? Raphael didn't hesitate. Rowan. The silence after that was suffocating, even through a speaker. Then, where is he? Lawson said, voice suddenly cold. That is none of your. Where is he? Lawson lunged off camera. I jumped back from the screen, breath catching. They were coming for me. I grabbed the table behind me, trying to steady my thoughts. But my mind spiraled. If they found this vault, if they found the foundation plans, this wasn't like stealing a yacht or breaking into a beach house. This was dealing with a legacy built in secrecy, one that could crumble if even one greedy hand touched the wrong file. The intercom crackled again. Raphael's voice, strained. Rowan, listen carefully. I froze. Do not open the vault door. No matter what happens. A loud crash echoed in the background, something metallic hitting the floor. Sierra screamed. Lawson, stop. You're gonna get us arrested. Or killed. Raphael grunted, like he'd been shoved. Then Lawson yelled, breath ragged. Rowan. I know you can hear me. Open the damn door. I stumbled backward. He knew. Somehow, he knew I was inside. He pounded his fist against metal somewhere in the villa. Grandpa chose you? You? For what? What's in that room? Sierra hissed, Lawson, we shouldn't be here, this is bad. But Lawson was past logic. This isn't over, he shouted. I'll find another way in. His footsteps thundered away. The audio cut to static. I stood alone in the vault, sweat on my palms, heart feral in my chest. The family I'd known all my life, the ones who laughed at my inheritance, the ones who dismissed me, were suddenly dangerous. Hungry. Desperate. And something inside me shifted. Fear twisted into resolve. This wasn't about protecting myself anymore. It was about protecting the legacy my grandfather had hidden from them. The foundation. The lives depending on it. The truth Dad had unknowingly safeguarded when he told Silas to watch my son. I reached for the nearest binder labeled Project X, Contingency. If Lawson thought he could break in, he had no idea what kind of man my grandfather had been. Silas didn't build anything without a backup plan. But as I opened the binder, the security lights blinked again, twice, then 3 times in rapid succession. A pattern I recognized from earlier. Someone had bypassed the outer fence. This wasn't Lawson. This was someone new. Another threat. And I had no idea who. The vault lights flickered again, 3 sharp pulses, before stabilizing. My breath caught. Raphael had explained the villa's coded signals earlier. 2 flashes equals internal breach detected. 3 flashes equals external perimeter compromised. Someone else was here. Not Lawson. Not Sierra. Someone who didn't bother sneaking through the villa. Someone who knew exactly where the outer security grid was. My pulse thundered in my ears. I leaned toward the monitor grid and tapped to cycle through exterior cameras. The view jerked from angle to angle until finally, a black SUV sat idling outside the gate. Its windows were tinted darker than legal. The license plate had been removed. 2 men stepped out. Not cousins. Not paparazzi. Not lawyers. These men were built like walls, broad shoulders, rigid posture, the type who moved like their ankles knew the rhythm of combat boots. Not tourists. Not family. Professionals. One checked his watch. The other lifted a tablet, an advanced one, military grade. He tapped once, and I watched the villa's gate sensors blink offline. My mouth went dry. These weren't thieves. They were operatives. But whose? The SUV door opened again, and a woman stepped out, early 50s maybe, hair in a dark slick bun, wearing a trench coat tailored enough to cost half my yearly salary. Her heels clicked softly against the stone driveway, controlled, deliberate. She wasn't looking at the villa. She was looking through it. As if she already knew the layout. She lifted her chin. "Bring him out," she told her men. "Alive. Alive." A chill crawled up my spine. Who the hell was she? And how did she know about me? Before I could process further, a new voice crackled through the vault intercom, strained, angry, but alive. "Rowan, listen. Do not come out." It was Raphael. His breathing was rough, like he'd been running or fighting. "Your cousins are outside." I escorted them out the back gate. "They're shaken but safe. They won't return tonight." I swallowed, torn between relief and confusion. "Then who?" "Unknown third party," Raphael cut in. "Highly trained. Breached the outer perimeter in under 60 seconds. That is, not normal." "Do you know who they are?" I whispered. "No," Raphael said, "but they're not here for your cousins. They're here for you or the files." Then a heavy metallic thud echoed through the villa, something slamming against a reinforced door upstairs. Raphael hissed into his mic, "They're trying to breach the study. That door won't hold long." "What do they want?" My voice cracked. Raphael's voice dropped. "Your grandfather had enemies, Rowan. Real ones. His investments, especially in international development, disrupted powerful groups. Governments. Corporations. Cartels. The Foundation's secrecy protected it." I felt the air drain from my lungs. "And now," Raphael said grimly, "those groups may believe you have access to his network." I stared around at the vault, at the maps, codes, account numbers, secure routes, names of villages, encrypted ledgers. This wasn't just wealth. This was global strategy. This was power. The kind that threatened entire systems. I whispered, "Silas didn't just hide money. He hid leverage." Raphael didn't deny it. Another crash upstairs. Wood splintered. The woman's voice echoed faintly. "Open it. Level 2 charge if needed." Level 2 charge? They were planning to blow the door. My entire body went cold. "Raphael," I said, my voice barely breath. "What do I do?" "Stay calm," he said. "Your grandfather planned for this scenario." "What scenario?" "The scenario," Raphael answered, "where greed wasn't the biggest danger, power was." A sharp alarm blared through the monitors. I whipped around. The camera feed for the east hallway filled with dust and smoke. They detonated the study door. Heavy footsteps followed. They were inside. Raphael's voice sharpened. "We're out of time. Go to the back of the vault." I turned, racing past rows of binders until I reached the far wall where a seamless metal panel sat flush with the concrete. I pressed my palm to it like Raphael had shown me earlier. It didn't open. "It's biometric," Raphael said. "Press your right thumb to the lower corner. Quickly." I did. A faint click. The panel slid open 2 inches. A hidden compartment. Inside was a backpack, a key fob, and a sealed envelope. "What is this?" I whispered. "Your grandfather's extraction kit," Raphael said. "If the villa falls, these documents must reach the Foundation's second location." I froze. "Second location?" "Yes. A facility in Athens. Only 2 people alive know the exact coordinates. Myself. And now you." My throat tightened. "What's in the envelope?" "Instructions," Raphael said. "And something he wrote personally." My fingers shook as I slipped the envelope into the backpack. "What about you?" I asked. "Where will you go?" Raphael exhaled. "I'll stall them." My stomach twisted. "You said they're professionals." "Yes," Raphael said. "That's why you must go. Now." "No," I whispered. "I'm not leaving you." He sighed, a weary, sad sound. Rowan, I've known you 5 hours and you already sound like him. Who? Silas. Another explosion rocked the villa. Go! Raphael shouted. I grabbed the backpack and the key fob and rushed toward the opposite wall, a second door disguised as a metal storage rack. I pressed the fob against the side panel. It flashed green. The door slid open, revealing a narrow escape tunnel carved directly into the hillside. Behind me, through the monitors, I saw the woman enter the study, flanked by 2 operatives. She surveyed the destroyed room, unimpressed. Then she whispered into her earpiece. Find the vault. My blood ran ice cold. I tightened the backpack straps and stepped into the tunnel. The door hissed shut behind me, sealing the vault in darkness. The tunnel sloped downward, lit by faint emergency strips along the floor. I moved as fast as I could, heart hammering, until finally. Light. A concealed garage carved into the cliffside. Inside were 2 vehicles. One was a motorcycle, sleek, matte black, deadly. The other was a nondescript gray sedan, nothing that would draw attention on city streets. My thumb hit the key fob. The sedan beeped softly. Above me, the cliff groaned softly with the vibrations of explosions echoing through the villa. I climbed into the driver's seat and hit the ignition. The engine purred to life. Before I shifted into gear, I glanced at the sealed envelope inside the backpack. My name was handwritten on the front. But something in the corner caught my eye. A second line. 5 words. Do not trust the obvious. I froze. What did that mean? Whom? The cousins? The woman upstairs? Someone else entirely? Another explosion boomed faintly through the tunnel walls. No time. I pressed the accelerator. The sedan shot forward, disappearing into the winding coastal road carved along the cliffside, the moon reflecting off the sea like molten silver. Behind me, somewhere within that villa, the life my grandfather built was under attack. Ahead of me lay the truth he'd hidden so deeply that no amount of wealth, no will, no courtroom, no insult from my cousins could have revealed it. This wasn't about inheritance anymore. This wasn't about proving myself worthy. This was about stepping into a role built over decades of secrecy, sacrifice, and danger. A role he'd been preparing for me long before I knew it existed. As I merged onto the dark stretch of Mediterranean highway, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. We know what you took. Another. Run while you can. And then. We're coming. The road ahead twisted into darkness. But so did every secret worth protecting. If my story pulled you in, take a second to like the video, share it so more people can experience it, and drop a comment telling where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe for more intense, emotional stories that keep you hooked till the last line.